Did you know that fake news spreads 6 times faster than real news, apparently? I don't know if that's actually true, but it was on a Netflix trailer, and now you believe me because it sounds cool, right? Wrong. Information on the World Wide Web has gone from insanely long articles and citing sources to 140 character statements that feel like it's the equivalent of someone trying to start World War III. Twitter is a very interesting place to sit in every once in a while. Anyway, I'm Alex at FI on Instagram, and today's episode of How? Why? We're going to be talking about a recent piece of information that covered the wheel pages of Facebook and flooded our Instagram DMs that is like, what in the world happened to BBS? And if you're just jumping into this video for the first time, ¿Cómo estás? All right, me llamo Alejandro.fi. And if you're looking for aftermarket wheels, tires, or suspension, be sure to hit us up over at fitmentindustries.com, where we have everything your little cold, tiny heart could possibly imagine, including, contrary to popular belief, BBS Wheels, because they're still making wheels. Taking it back to the early 2020, the world was a different place. I had more patchy facial hair, I just have none now, and we were filming on a baby blue couch. We were filming on a baby blue, oh my gosh, we were filming on a baby blue couch. It was very comfortable, okay? And toilet paper became worth more than a red party hat. During that time, there were suppliers that were trying to figure out what they would need to do so that they could keep their businesses moving forward, so that they could take care of customers as well as possible. Because it was the first quarter of 2020. If you remember, it was a little crazy. The world was just a little nuts. Hey, we made it though. Give yourself a pat on the back. One of those companies among many was Baumgartner brand Schiltok, all right, or BBS. BBS, like many other companies, were battling everything they could do to keep their OE and their aftermarket wheel production line moving forward, all right? Now, before we go into the iconic newspaper-style tagline of "Did the virus shut down BBS?" Dun, dun, dun. No, this is unfortunately not true, all right? It exposed a challenging problem BBS had been dealing with since 2019, as OEM car sales in Europe really began declining, like hard. Since BBS GmbH is the cast branch of the company and supplies to the OE market, or original equipment market, the declining sales of cars in Europe impacted the company severely and forced it to begin developing a plan to restructure the company. Now remember, OE, OEM, your normal mom and pop cars before people like you and people like me slam them onto the ground. Since the late 2010s, BBS was continuing to stuff more and more production/resources, or known as money, into their OE manufacturing of the business. With vehicle sales declining in Europe since late 2018, BBS saw a gradual decline in their sales of OE products. Now, production capabilities increased, but demand inherently, from the way the world works, inherently decreased. The battle of BBS continuing to produce wheels for OE suppliers got tougher and tougher, and the dance became more difficult. Pair that with the difficulties of the pandemic lockdown, and OE sales decline strained the company heavily. It's tough stuff there, Gorilla Glue. I mean, it was not a fun time for a lot of companies. Insolvencies aren't new to BBS, but every time they've taken a hit, they've managed to refocus and realign their ambition, where people like you and people like me like them to be more focused, which is aftermarket. All right, aftermarket's just way cooler. OE business has seen a decrease over time, and BBS is using this time to realign their focus to the aftermarket, and it's gotten better. Every time I say BBS, please take a shot. Since the BBS aftermarket division is one of the major sources of income for the brand, BBS is likely to reorganize and add more aftermarket products and increase their overall aftermarket activities and shift their focus a little bit more towards that. But the OE portion just didn't make it with as much meat on the bone. Because of how it works, we got the news that BBS GmbH, because of the way it's capitalized, declared insolvency at a district court in Rottweil. This caused people to freak out and start selling their wheels at 2 to 3 times more than what they're worth. Good on you guys and gals. Seriously, news does that. RSs filled the streets, E88s became 10 Gs instead of 6.5, and I was a sad panda for a day or two, all right? But the insolvency doesn't mean that BBS is in fact shut down. In fact, that's just not how the way that it works. Welcome to capitalism. It actually puts them in a better position than before. Yeah, I'm a wheel guy, not an insolvency expert. But this put BBS in a better position to focus on the other leg of the chair that has been growing versus shrinking, and that, ladies and gentlemen, come on in. Come on in just a little bit closer. That's us. Now that the insolvency is actually in progress, this means that the aftermarket scene is now getting the attention of BBS in more ways than it was previously because of the situation. And in terms of aftermarket wheel production, it's actually only gotten better. BBS Japan, the forged wheel entity of BBS, just recently invested like millions upon millions of dollars into a new paint facility, new robotic equipment, and 2 new 12,000-ton forging presses to allow for future product development and production of BBS forged wheels, because that's what we actually really like. They have a new production flow in their original location factory and a new distribution center focused just solely on aftermarket wheels. And that's why these insolvency things are just so weird. BBS Motorsport and BBS Japan are not associated with BBS GmbH filing for bankruptcy. BBS GmbH is the OEM arm of this whole ordeal and the one that got hit the hardest with this. The problem is that with people like you and people like me associate the whole brand with every product. I mean, why wouldn't you? They practically have the same names. It's like they should be the same thing, but they kind of really aren't. And I mean, honestly, that does make some sense. BBS is fine. It just took a little bit of a stumble in the OE department. It's going to keep making aftermarket wheels and keep managing the OE wheels to select OE customers. BBS entered its 50th year of business in 2020, and honestly, it didn't start all that well on the best foot, but we all know BBS. It's a company that's been around for practically and quite literally, I don't know why I said practically, half a century. They make badass wheels that have made them one of the staples in the aftermarket wheel community. The odds of them ever going away are pretty much short next to zero. I mean, they just aren't going to fall out. It's about as likely as Mario beating me in ping pong or Dakota switching to Taco John's instead of Taco Ding Dong. It's just not gonna happen. But let us know what you'd like us to talk about next in the history of who, what, and let us know what you want us to dive into. I'm Alex from Fitment Industries, and if you're looking for any sort of aftermarket wheels, tires, or suspension, be sure to hit us up over at fitmentindustries.com. And yes, that includes BBS. I'm Alex. We'll talk to you later. Peace.